India Space Research Organization launched its 100th satellite today as the US struggles to bring back its stranded astronauts amid tech glitches and politics. A new Canadian report accuses India of election meddling. We'll tell you how New Delhi has responded. How at least 30 people have died at a stampede in the Maha Kumbh. How Chinese AI companies are on fire with new models and the West is hating on them. Also, what is holding India back in this tech race? How embassies are coming under attack as conflict in DR Congo intensifies. How a truck fell into a sinkhole in Japan. We have images of the dramatic rescue operation. And why Mona Lisa is being given her own room in the Louvre. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he's open to talks with Ukraine but rules out speaking directly with Volodymyr Zelensky. Putin calls the Ukrainian president illegitimate. Says Zelensky's presidential term has expired. Zelensky claims Putin is afraid of negotiations to end the nearly 3-year-long conflict. Russia says it held frank discussions with Syria's new leader. Moscow wants to retain its 2 military bases in the country. Damascus reportedly has asked Moscow to hand over Bashar al-Assad. The former Syrian president fled to Russia after his government was toppled in December. A South Korean passenger plane catches fire, forcing the evacuation of more than 170 people on board. The fire started in the rear section of the aircraft. The cause of the fire is still not known. Last month, South Korea suffered its worst aviation disaster on its soil, which killed 179 people. Hamas officials accuse Israel of delaying aid delivery to Gaza, warn that it could impact the release of hostages. Israel calls it fake news. The next release of hostages is due tomorrow. Earlier this month, Israel and Hamas agreed to a ceasefire after 15 months of war. And the junta-led countries of Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso officially leave ECOWAS. It's West Africa's main political and trade group. This comes after more than a year of diplomatic tensions. The rupture was sparked by the 2023 coup in Niger. Last September, Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso created their own security partnership.
You're fired!
The US government is downsizing. President Donald Trump wants to fire nearly all government employees. That's more than 2 million people in all. They are the backbone of the US government, but Trump wants them out and he wants it quickly. To speed things up, he's offering these workers a deal. If they resign now, they can leave with 8 months of pay. And this is being framed as voluntary exit. But make no mistake, this is a mass layoff. President Donald Trump is trying to dismantle the US government as it exists today. These employees have received an email. It describes a deferred resignation program. The recipients of this mail are all civil servants, the men and women who execute government decisions, plus those who work in support functions like human resources and IT. All those who hold permanent positions in the US government, they've all received this email. Trump has given them time till the 6th of February. If they resign now, they will walk away with 8 months of pay and benefits. They will be placed on leave so they can stop coming to work immediately. All they have to do is this: reply to that email with the word resign. The White House has called its severance package very generous, 8 months of pay. Some essential employees are exempt from this layoff scheme, like military personnel, immigration and national security staff, and postal workers. Their jobs remain safe for now. As for the rest, they're all in Trump's firing line. More than 2 million employees. 10% of them are expected to take the deal, or so Trump's officials hope. They believe 10% of the government staff, which is around 200,000 employees, will resign. And if that happens, the government will save $100 billion. That is their calculation anyway. But what happens to those who decide to stay? The president will continue to target them. The same email spells out what lies ahead for those employees. I have a quote with me. Listen to what it says. We cannot give you full assurance regarding the certainty of your position or agency, but should your position be eliminated, you will be treated with dignity. This sounds polite, but the message is quite clear. Leave now with the benefits or you'll be fired. That's essentially what the email conveyed. It is now available on a government website. Let's show you what this looks like. It even includes a draft resignation letter which the employees could use. Allow me to quote from it. This is what the letter says. I am certain of my decision to resign and my choice to resign is fully voluntary. The email is titled A Fork in the Road. If you feel that you've heard this before, you have. It is from Elon Musk's playbook. He used the very same strategy to sack Twitter employees before he renamed the platform X. Musk sent them an email with the very same title, A Fork in the Road. It was an ultimatum. Elon Musk said he will only keep those employees who are quote-unquote extremely hardcore and willing to work long hours at high intensity. Those were the words that he used. Twitter employees were specifically asked to agree to this, and those who did not were sacked with a severance package of 3 months' salary. Now, Elon Musk is in charge of making the US government leaner. He is running the newly created DOGE department. DOGE stands for Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. When Trump picked Musk to run it, he also hinted at targeting federal workers.
I will create a government efficiency commission tasked with conducting a complete financial and performance audit of the entire federal government and making recommendations for drastic reforms. We need to do it. Can't go on the way we are now. And Elon, because he's not very busy, has agreed to head that task force.
Trump promised drastic reforms and he's walking the talk. He's deploying Elon Musk's methods to shake things up and firing US government employees. He's been targeting them from the word go, from the moment he took office. On day one, Trump signed multiple executive orders directed at federal employees, starting with a government hiring freeze. The president also banned remote working. All federal employees were asked to report to work. He also issued a separate executive order to reclassify some federal employees, and now he wants to sack them. So he's ramping up the pressure. The question is, why? Why target government employees? Apparently, Trump wants to replace them with loyalists. That is what observers say. They say the president wants people who won't challenge his orders. He's prioritizing patronage over performance. Again, this is a leaf from Musk's playbook. Most likely, it is his brainchild. He has been trolling federal workers on X and urging them to type up their resignations. But it's easier said than done. Firing government workers is not as simple as laying off workers in the private sector. You cannot just hand out pink slips and move on. Federal or government employees in the US, especially those in permanent positions, enjoy legal protections. So like many of Trump's decisions so far, this one too could end up being challenged in court. In fact, the biggest union of federal workers is already pushing back.
What the Trump administration is trying to do is blur the line between the civil service and political appointees. So they're essentially disbanding the civil service, and with the systematic protections that allow a career employee to report fraud, waste, abuse, unethical activity, illegal activity, they're taking away those protections.
Since taking office, President Trump has picked fights on multiple fronts. He has clashed with his political rivals. He has challenged America's allies overseas, and now he wants to sack his own government workers. This is a battle that could divide Washington. So Trump is trimming the US budget, and he's not just firing government employees, he's also cutting US aid. We're talking about government grants and assistance. This covers a whole lot of things: military aid to allies, humanitarian work abroad, research funding at home, also grants to colleges and schools. All of this counts as American aid. But Donald Trump halted it this week. He has paused most aid programs for 90 days. Why? To review them. Think of it as a political audit. Programs that fit Donald Trump's ideas will keep getting money. Those that do not will be cut off. Say there's an abortion clinic abroad or a conference linked to diversity policies. Those programs will not get US funding. We're talking about a lot of money here. The US government is the biggest international donor. In 2023, they spent $68 billion abroad. At home, it's even bigger. White House data claims $3 trillion were spent last year, $3 trillion in federal assistance. And where does all this money go? To things like medical subsidies or insurance, to grants for colleges, to diversity programs, to critical research, a whole lot of things. If you freeze that overnight, there will be chaos. In fact, that's what happened this week. Colleges and charities were caught off guard. Patients were unsure about medicines, so the US judiciary stepped in. A federal court has blocked one part of Trump's aid freeze, only one part, and that is the domestic part. Agencies or institutions at home will keep getting government money. But foreign aid remains frozen. Though the State Department is drawing up some waivers, they plan to keep life-saving programs running. What about military aid? Only Israel and Egypt will keep receiving military aid from America. The rest have been cut off. Now, there are two things to note here. First is the lack of clarity. It is not clear if Trump imposed a blanket aid freeze or which agencies it will impact, which is why the judge halted Trump's order. The second issue is the legality. In the US, only the Congress can allocate and freeze funds. The president can only make requests. It's the Congress that decides who gets what, which is why Democrats are up in arms. They say this is presidential overreach.
Without a shred of warning, the Trump administration announced a halt to virtually all federal funds across the country. This is a heist done on a national scale. No matter how much he may believe he does, the president does not have the authority to ignore the law, and we're going to fight this in every way that we can.
22 Democratic states have filed a lawsuit. They plan to challenge Trump's aid freeze. Outside the United States, there is confusion and chaos. Charities have begun firing workers. United Nations programs are scaling back their work, especially in regions like Gaza and Afghanistan. And in Ukraine, President Zelensky is nervous. He says military aid has not been cut off, but he's still seeking a report on the impact of President Trump's freeze.
This concerns many areas, from communications and digitalization to support for veterans, schools, hospitals, and reconstruction. Of course, the details of these programs were not previously a matter of state oversight, but the officials will present everything to me.
We'll see how the legal challenges unfold, but there's a bigger story here, the story of US aid. This isn't just altruism at play. This is also political. The US donates to nearly 180 countries. Who gets what depends on American interests. Look at the period after the Second World War. The Americans pumped billions into Europe and Japan. Germany received around $30 billion after 1946. This is amount adjusted to prices in 2005. $30 billion for Germany. And Japan got around $15 billion. And you can see the results today. Both these countries, Germany and Japan, are staunch American allies. Their own militaries are weak, so they're always dependent on Washington for protection. Now cut to 2010. America's interest changed. In that year, 2010, $4.4 billion were allocated to Pakistan and Afghanistan, and $500 million to Iraq. Remember, America was fighting wars in both these countries, hence the funding boost. Now, if you look at 2023, there is another change. Ukraine is now the biggest beneficiary, and Israel is a close second. Do you see the trend here? US assistance follows US interests, and they don't even hide it. Let me take you back to the year 2013. John Kerry was the US Secretary of State, and I'm quoting what he said. Let me be very clear, foreign assistance is not a giveaway. It is not charity. It is an investment in a strong America and in a free world. I know what you're thinking. Why is this a bad thing? Don't all countries pursue their own interests? Well, yes, they do, but America's interest may not be yours. And that's when problems arise. The US spends $2 billion every year on what they call is promoting democracy. They fund media organizations as part of this. They support civil society groups and they claim to promote the rule of law. Now, all of this is American style. There is no focus on local nuances and realities, which means it is borderline meddling and in some cases very clear and obvious meddling. And we've seen that a lot in Latin America, also in West Asia and in the Indo-Pacific. So how can you counter it? Well, humanitarian aid must always be welcomed. The US is the biggest economy in the world. They do have a responsibility to those less fortunate. Plus, foreign aid is just 1% of their budget. It's not a drag on the American economy. As for the activism aid, other countries must be careful. You can scrutinize where the American money is going, who is getting this money, and what are they doing with it. We've talked about China's debt trap on this show. The world should also watch out for America's aid trap.
Minus 30 seconds.
In front of the International Space Station.
3, 2, 1. The mission is completed.
Today was a historic day for ISRO. That's the Indian Space Research Organization. It has achieved a new milestone. Today, ISRO launched its 100th rocket. The launch took place early in the morning from Sriharikota in the Indian state of Andhra Pradesh. The mission carried a navigation satellite into orbit.
The first launch of this year, 2025, has been successfully accomplished, with GSLV F-15 launch vehicle precisely injecting the navigation satellite NVS-02 in the required intended orbit.
ISRO was set up in 1969, so it took 46 years to hit a century. It's a testament to decades of dedication. Today, India is a space power. And the new ISRO chief is highly optimistic. He believes that India will double this feat, that India will launch 200 satellites in just the next 5 years.
Reward for hard work is more work. And ISRO has got very busy year ahead with many missions lined up in the coming months. You all know we are progressing extremely well for the preparation of the first uncrewed G1 mission as part of the Gaganyaan program.
So India's space ambitions are soaring, but thousands of kilometers away, another space mission has taken a very different turn. We are talking about NASA and its stranded astronauts. Back in June 2024, 2 NASA astronauts blasted off to space, Sunitha Williams and Butch Wilmore. They went on board the Boeing Starliner. It took them to the International Space Station. This was supposed to be an 8-day mission. Instead, it has turned into an 8-month ordeal. Technical failures plagued the Starliner. Boeing could not fix the problem. After many delays, they planned to bring them back in March, that too on a SpaceX rocket. But now the US has a new president, and he wants to fast-track the return of American astronauts. How will Donald Trump do that? By ordering his BFF Elon Musk. As you know, SpaceX is Musk's company. It was already set to bring the astronauts back, but President Trump, being Trump, wants it done now. His intervention has raised eyebrows. American presidents usually keep their hands off NASA's operations. Space missions are supposed to be above politics. But with Trump, the old rules do not apply. He claims the astronauts were abandoned by Joe Biden and that he will be the one to bring them home. Clearly, this is a political move. But for a moment, let's also look at the bigger story. Space exploration is a grand theatre. And today, 2 contrasting events are unfolding here. ISRO completing its 100th launch and NASA struggling to bring its people back. The moment mirrors an age-old fable, the tale of the hare and the tortoise. You see, when India entered the space race, it did so in the shadows of Cold War superpowers. The beginnings were humble. Rockets transported on bicycles, satellites ferried on bullock carts, cartoons mocking our space missions. Meanwhile, both the US and the Soviet Union were hurtling towards the moon, their ambitions fueled by deep pockets. But history, much like the fable, often favors the steady and the persistent. India's approach was budget conscious and methodical. Slowly but surely, we are closing the gap. With the Chandrayaan and Mangalyaan missions, ISRO reached the moon and Mars. That too on a shoestring budget, achieving what NASA did, but at a fraction of the cost. Now, with its 100th satellite launch, India has demonstrated the need for consistency. On the other hand, NASA struggles, in fact, serve as a reminder that even the mightiest can stumble. The US is struggling with its privatized space program. SpaceX is surging ahead, but Boeing remains mired in issues. There are rushed timelines, cost overruns, and quality control failures. Also, to be clear, we do know that satellite launches and human spaceflight are not the same. These are two fundamentally different endeavors. India's 100th launch was a satellite. It was not a crewed mission. And human spaceflight often brings more challenges that no nation has fully mastered. Yet we say the juxtaposition is stark. India was once seen as a second-tier player. Now it is quietly building a formidable presence in space. Meanwhile, NASA was one of the pioneers of the cosmos. It now finds itself scrambling for solutions. And this shift in the space race is not just about technology, it is also about philosophy. The US often favored bold leaps, sometimes at the cost of stability. India, on the other hand, chose perseverance, focusing on incremental, well-executed advancements. And if history has taught us anything, it is this: slow and steady wins the race. Canada is at it again, blaming India for their own failures. This time it's about elections. A new Canadian report has been published. It accuses foreign powers of meddling in Canada's elections. China has been named as the #1 meddler and India is #2. New Delhi has rejected the Canadian claims, of course. In fact, they have flipped the script. Let me quote from the Indian statement. This is what it says. It is, in fact, Canada which has been consistently interfering in India's internal affairs. This has also created an environment for illegal migration and organized criminal activities. We reject the report's insinuations on India and expect that the support system enabling illegal migration will not be further countenanced. So India is accusing Canada of interference, of promoting illegal migration. But where did this whole meddling row begin? And how was India dragged in? In 2023, Canadian media published a bombshell. It said China had meddled in the 2019 and 2021 Canadian elections. Why? To make sure that Justin Trudeau won. China did not want the Conservatives to come to power. They were seen as China hawks. So Beijing's preference was a minority government led by Justin Trudeau, which is exactly what happened. Now, Trudeau was informed about this. His spy agency, the Canadian spy agency, told him about the Chinese meddling. And what did he do? Nothing. Prime Minister Trudeau sat on it until the media got wind. Only after that did he order an inquiry, and the final report is the result of that investigation, of that inquiry. But why does it name India? Again, because of politics. During this probe, Trudeau picked a fight with India. He accused New Delhi of killing a Khalistani terrorist in Canada, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. And suddenly the report is not about China anymore, it's more about India. It's about India's so-called interference. And the worst part? There is no evidence against India. It's all speculation and assessments. Let me quote from the Canadian report. Intelligence holdings indicate that India may have attempted to clandestinely provide financial support to preferred candidates. India may have also launched a disinformation campaign against Prime Minister Trudeau. A lot of ambiguity there, a lot of could have, may have, which is another way of saying We have no proof. This is not a serious government report. This is a hit job, an attempt to malign India. On the other hand, Canada's interference is well documented. We have seen Khalistani marches in Canada. We have seen attacks on Indian diplomatic missions, even Khalistani flags at events attended by Prime Minister Trudeau. People wanted in India live freely in Canada. We are talking about criminals and separatists. India has sent 26 extradition requests. 26 requests are pending with Canada. And for these, we've shared the evidence. We've shared phone and location details, yet Canada refuses to extradite these people. What's more, they let these separatists flourish. In 2021, a Khalistan referendum was organized in Canada. In 2023, another vote was organized. Is this not interference? Is this not meddling in India's affairs? The fact is, Justin Trudeau is desperate. His legacy is already in tatters. This China probe could make things worse for him. So now he's trying to hide his past failures and he's shifting the blame to India. But nobody is buying the sham report or its accusations. It is the last roll of the dice from a lame duck prime minister. Or should we say governor? Maybe add that to the meddling report next time. Surely a US invasion counts as meddling. Vantage continues after a short break.
Dead bodies. I've seen the police of the dead getting some
यहाँ बेकार है यार, रुकना भाई भाई यहाँ से चलने में फायदा है यार। बहुत हो गया, 7 बजे आएंगे।
Our next story is about the Maha Kumbh, the world's largest gathering of people. It is a 45-day celebration, and today is the most auspicious day of this holy Hindu festival. This morning, tens of millions of people gathered. They rushed to bathe in the confluence of Ganga and Yamuna rivers, and chaos ensued. Amid deadly panic, a stampede broke out. At least 30 people are dead, several others are injured, and many are missing. So what caused the stampede and how is the situation on the ground now? Here is a report.
Clothes, shoes and blankets strewn on the ground. Crowds trying to escape. Pilgrims weeping. Families searching for missing relatives. Police personnel rushing to the scene and dozens of ambulances coming out of the festival crowd. This was the aftermath of what is one of the holiest days or the peak moment at one of the holiest Hindu gatherings. The 45-day celebration, the Maha Kumbh Mela. It is the world's largest gathering of people. It has brought hundreds of millions of the faithful to Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh. And today, a record attendance was anticipated. 100 million people were expected to come to the waters on this auspicious day and bathe in the Triveni Sangam, the confluence of holy rivers Ganga and Yamuna. So security was beefed up to help regulate the crowds. But nothing was capable of keeping up with the rush. Over just a handful of hours, chaos ensued and a stampede broke out amid deadly panic. While the official figures are not out, deaths have been confirmed by the government. Reportedly, dozens of people were killed in the crush and several others were injured.
वहाँ पर हम लोग जा रहे थे, एक बाइक ना इतना धक्का मुक्की हुआ कि गिरने लगे लोग, गिरने लगे उसके बाद आदमी चढ़ने लगा, कोई उठा नहीं रहा था। अचानक भीड़ आके ऐसा धक्का मुक्का चला, बाद में हम बचने के लिए कोई चांस नहीं, इधर उधर सबकी जगह में धक्का शुरू हो गए सर।
It all began around 1 a.m. with about 30 million people bathing at the Kumbh. A sea of tightly packed crowds converged at the Sangam. People who were sleeping by the riverbanks were trampled by others who were rushing to the river to bathe. Crowds surged in multiple directions. People began to push their way out. Many fell down, climbed over the barricades and pulled down fences. It was utter chaos and ended with missing family members, echoes of cries and screams, and bodies being taken away on stretchers.
भीड़ भाड़ भाई तो धक्का मुक्के में जो गिरे से फिर दोबारा नहीं उठा, आदमी वहीं गिरा, फिर तो लाश उठाने को मिली वहां से।
मेरी माँ का भी अभी कोई पता नहीं है कि वो बहुत सीरियस थी, वो जीवित हैं कि नहीं, भगवान जाने।
The injured are being treated in the Kumbh hospital. Many still await their loved ones at the lost and found centres. Police have boosted security and reset barricades in many places. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has condoled the deaths.
मैं महा कुंभ में जो दुखद हादसा हुआ है, हमें कुछ पुण्यात्माओं को खोना पड़ा है, कई लोगों को चोटें भी आई हैं। मैं प्रभावित परिवारों के प्रति संवेदना व्यक्त करता हूं और घायलों के जल्द स्वस्थ होने की कामना करता हूं।
Critics are slamming the state government over quote-unquote half-baked arrangements. After all, crowd crushes are not uncommon at religious gatherings, and this applies to India's Maha Kumbh as well. In 2013, dozens of people were killed at a railway station as people gathered for that year's Kumbh Mela. So this year, authorities boosted security with AI drones and cameras. But critics claim that is not enough. Crowd control for an event of this magnitude needs more work, possibly with blocking access to reduce the overflow of visitors in some pockets. And visitors must participate responsibly with vigilance. So while the holy bath has reopened since the fatal stampede this morning, we must remember the tragedy and make sure that history doesn't repeat itself.
The world is still talking about DeepSeek, the Chinese AI company that shook up Silicon Valley. It took on American tech giants. Its AI models are cost-efficient and powerful. They are built on less advanced chips, yet they perform just as well as their Western counterparts and rivals. The result? A massive market shock. Tech stocks plunged. $1 trillion wiped out in a single day, and things were just stabilizing when China fired again. A second Chinese tech giant has thrown its hat in the ring. I'm talking about Alibaba. Its latest AI model, Qwen 2.5 Max, is here. And according to Alibaba, it is not just good, it is better. Better than OpenAI's GPT-4o, better than Meta's Llama, and even better than DeepSeek's V3. So Alibaba claims it is better than its Chinese and American counterparts. These claims are yet to be verified, but the timing is deliberate. It's the Lunar New Year in China. It's a national holiday, a time for family. Most people are not working, but Alibaba is. This wasn't just a product launch. It was a power play. Right now, China's AI momentum is relentless. DeepSeek shocked the world last month, and last week it dropped another model. Then came Moonshot AI. It's a Chinese startup. Its new release is called Kimi K 1.5. Moonshot claims it is on par with OpenAI's best. And now we have Alibaba. Make no mistake, this is not tech boom, this is an offensive. Not the usual military drills kind that Beijing likes. This is a tech offensive. China has the West on the back foot, and now it is going for the kill. What's the West doing about it? Well, they are playing the TikTok card. If you can't defeat them, discredit them. If that doesn't work, raise national security concerns, and if even that fails, then just go ahead and ban them. The first example is OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT. 2 days ago, their CEO praised the DeepSeek model. But now the company has a problem. It says DeepSeek used OpenAI's models to train its apps. Microsoft is investigating this charge. It is a major investor in OpenAI, so Microsoft wants to find out if any OpenAI data was used. Now, we don't know how much of this is true or if this is just a case of sour grapes. But the White House has echoed these concerns. They're looking into DeepSeek and the national security concerns related to Chinese AI models.
President Trump has also proudly appointed the first AI and crypto czar at this White House, David Sachs, whom I spoke with yesterday, very knowledgeable on this subject, and his team is here working every single day to ensure American AI dominance. As for the national security implications, I spoke with NSC this morning. They are looking into what those may be, and when I have an update, I will share it with you.
The US is not alone. Italy's data watchdog also wants answers. It is asking DeepSeek how it handles personal data. Italy claims that the data of millions of Italians could be at risk. DeepSeek has 20 days to respond to this. Meanwhile, Australia is taking a different route. No investigations, no formal requests. It has a simple message for its people. Be careful while using the app. The subtext here is, don't use it. So China is bombarding the world with new AI models, and the West is trying to raise doubts. They want their models to shine. But that does not answer the question, is DeepSeek safe to use? Let's look at the fine print. DeepSeek mentions that it collects a lot of personal information from its users. This includes email address and phone number, date of birth, user input, chat histories, your phone's model, your operating system, and your keyboard patterns. And where is all this information stored? It is kept in servers in China. So the app is harvesting a lot of your data, and it does raise some red flags. But this should apply to the other models as well, the likes of ChatGPT. It should also apply to social media platforms. They all have similar privacy policies. They all harvest your personal data. So these concerns are not unique to DeepSeek. And by extension, these questions and doubts are not really about data privacy. They are about tech dominance. DeepSeek collects personal data. So does ChatGPT and Meta. The difference? DeepSeek is Chinese, the others are American. And that changes everything. Beijing sees it as an opportunity, the West sees it as a threat. And in their battle for AI supremacy, neither side is backing down. Now, we don't know who will win, but we do know who will lose. Consumers like you and me, and our data privacy. After DeepSeek, Indian social media has just one question. If China can, why not India? Why can't we build a Facebook or Google or ChatGPT? Well, there isn't one single factor. It's a combination of many. Number one, of course, is money, and I'm not talking about bigger budgets, I'm talking about better budgets. We do not allocate enough money to research and development. Just look at the numbers. The US spends 3.4% of its GDP on R&D, research and development. China spends 2.4% of its GDP. Israel spends 5.7%. What about India? Only 0.6% spending. This is simply not enough to create breakthroughs. And it's not just the government. India's private spending on R&D is also less. Private companies make up just 36% of our total spend. In China and the US, it is higher than 70%, 70. So we need the government and the private sector to coordinate to put more money on research and development. That's the first point. The second factor is the market. It was explained pretty well by Sridhar Vembu. He is the chief scientist at Zoho, which is an Indian multinational company. Now, he says the Indian market is not protected, so startups are vulnerable. I'll give you a scenario. Imagine an Indian startup creating a homegrown Google. It's not perfect, but it's an alternative, and it is homegrown. What do you think will happen to it? Do you think Indians will ditch Google? Do you think they'll flock to this homegrown version? The answer is no. The startup will perish under competition from American tech giants. Their products are cheaper and well established, so they will push out the Indian ones. In fact, this is what happened with India's social media platform Coup. But something like this never happens in China. Their market is close to American tech companies, so the homegrown ones have wiggle room to fail, to improve, and to finally deliver. So it's not always about the quality of the product, it's also about the environment that they grow in. Which brings us to the final factor. India is already behind. AI is the cutting edge of technology. You had so many platforms leading up to it. You had the internet, you had semiconductors, you had mobile phones, you had smartphones and laptops. India is yet to succeed in any of those sectors. And once you fall behind, you stay behind. That's generally how technology works. But what if you skip some of those steps? What if you focus directly on new technologies like AI? Then you will need help from others. For example, AI needs specialized semiconductors. Virtually all of them are made by one US company called NVIDIA. And the US won't sell it to you. Washington has capped advanced chip sales. You can't buy as many as you like. Countries like India can only buy 50,000 chips by 2027. That is the upper limit. That is the cap imposed by the US government. And how much is India looking to buy? Right now, the plan is to source 10,000 chips, which is not a bad number. OpenAI trained ChatGPT on a similar number of chips. No reason India cannot do the same. The problem is the likes of OpenAI have unlimited access to chips. By the time we make ChatGPT, they will be a few steps ahead of us. So these are the three main factors holding India back: lack of research and development, competition from American firms, and a massive gap with the leaders. How do we turn this around? How did China do it? They anticipated the curb in chip supply, so China began stockpiling chips in advance. They're also making their own. The likes of Huawei use China-made chips. Apparently, they're quite good too. And all of this boils down to one thing: a national campaign. We keep hearing stories about US tech giants building out of basements. Well, that is just one part of the story. The US government was heavily involved in it. The CIA had its own venture capitalist firm in Silicon Valley. The Pentagon gave them contracts. That is how these tech giants flourished in the first place. In China, it's the same story. Chinese firms get billions in state subsidies. They have a closed market to use as a training field. We don't have any of that. So the need of the hour is a streamlined national mission, one that brings together all stakeholders: the government, the startups, the private investors, and the ordinary people. If not, we will be left on the sidelines in this race. Our next story is from Japan. A massive sinkhole appeared in Saitama City, about 30 kilometers north of the capital, Tokyo. The sinkhole is about 10 meters wide and 10 meters deep. It formed suddenly on Tuesday morning, and as soon as it appeared, a truck fell into it. It was swallowed whole. The truck driver is a 74-year-old man. He was trapped in the sinkhole. Japanese authorities have been trying to rescue him for over 36 hours, but their attempts were hampered because a second sinkhole emerged last night. About 200 households have been evacuated and the situation remains tense. Our next report has the details.
This sinkhole has appeared in Japan's Saitama city, right in the middle of a busy road intersection. The hole is about 10 meters wide and 10 meters deep. It has been growing since it formed. The sinkhole appeared on Tuesday morning. Looking inside, we can see a leaking pipe, filling the hole with water, and that's just one of the problems. The cause of the sinkhole is believed to be a second pipe, a sewage pipe located more than 10 meters beneath the intersection. Reports say that this pipe corroded and then burst. The resultant leak caused soil and sand around the pipe to flow away. It led to a hollow forming beneath the road surface, weakening the road above and causing it to collapse when a heavy vehicle approached. Just when the ground collapsed, a truck fell inside. The driver was alive and conscious when the accident took place. Rescue workers could speak to him till about 1 p.m. on Tuesday, 3 hours after the accident occurred. But he told them that sand and debris were filling the truck. It had buried the driver's seat. But soon after, he stopped responding. Japanese rescue workers were trying to drain the hole. They were pumping out the water so that they could send in a rescue crew. Eventually, they decided to lower a crane to pick the truck up. That's when disaster struck again. Look at the electric pole and signboard just as the truck was being lifted. The ground beneath them gave way, causing them to collapse. The rescue work seems to have put additional stress on the ground, causing a second sinkhole to appear. The rescue crew pulled the truck out of the first sinkhole, then they dumped it and moved back. It was still lying on its side today, near the now 2 sinkholes. You'll notice that the truck bed and all 4 wheels are there, but the driver's compartment is not. The rescue workers could not find the driver. The second sinkhole seems to have caused additional complications. There is a gas pipeline running beneath the road. Japanese authorities fear a gas leak. They asked about 200 households located near the sinkhole to evacuate. The Saitama city government also issued an advisory. They asked about 1.2 million people across the city to refrain from using sewage systems to avoid exacerbating the situation. Once the rescue operation ends, hopefully in a success, that is when Japan will start fixing the damage. The nation is no stranger to sinkholes. One emerged in Hiroshima last September, causing a number of nearby buildings to lean towards the depression. It was caused by an underground water pipe burst. And then there was the giant sinkhole in Fukuoka in 2016. That was reportedly caused by construction work. Japan managed to fill it up and reopen the road within a week. There was a slight hiccup afterwards. The newly repaired road sank a bit, but that didn't take long to fix. So Japan knows how to handle these sinkholes whenever they appear. But their regular emergence is a cause for worry nonetheless. With widespread urbanization, there's always a trade-off between development and safety, even in a place as meticulous as Japan.
Vantage continues after a short break.
Dead bodies. I see with the least of the dead already. Some
यहाँ बेकार है यार, रुकना भाई। भाई यहाँ से चलने में फायदा है यार। बहुत हो गया, 7 बजे आएंगे।
Our last story tonight is about Mona Lisa, the 16th century painting by Leonardo da Vinci. This renowned portrait is housed in the Louvre in Paris. Every year, about 9 million people visit this museum. 80% of them look for the Mona Lisa. They brave crowds and noise. They jostle to catch a glimpse of the painting, but let alone getting a selfie with Mona Lisa, they manage to view it for less than a minute. So now the Louvre is peeling away Mona Lisa. The museum is moving it to a chamber that is separately accessible. French President Emmanuel Macron has hailed the project, saying that it will reduce the overwhelming crowds. But experts have few reasons to smile over Mona Lisa's move. Here is a report.
The world's biggest and most visited museum. Every year, nearly 1 million visitors stream through the Louvre Museum in Paris. But 80% of them make a beeline for only one piece of art. Leonardo da Vinci's portrait of Lisa Gherardini del Giocondo, better known as La Gioconde and better still as Mona Lisa. This 16th century painting has been idolized by art lovers and preyed upon by soup throwers and food attackers. Mona Lisa has braved mustache painters and thieves. But apparently, the renowned painting is having a tougher time with its selfie-snapping visitors. Its chamber is rowdy, flooded with crowds, jostling to catch a glimpse of this silent mystery sitting still amid the hubbub. On any given day, tens of thousands of people take this endurance test. But they manage to observe Mona Lisa for just about 50 seconds. So now the Louvre is making some changes, and French President Emmanuel Macron is saying, Mona Lisa, smile. The museum is moving the painting to its own private quarters. The Louvre will create a new entrance in its easternmost facade for a new exhibition space so that Mona Lisa is accessible separately.
The creation of these new rooms should enable the Mona Lisa to be accessible independently of the rest of the museum, which is what the Mona Lisa deserves.
This is part of a vast renovation. It will include overhauling the aging infrastructure of the museum. The new entrance, which will be ready by 2031, will be paid for by the museum's own funds, while the rest of the renovation will be paid for by the visitors. And next year onwards, the Louvre will hike its ticket prices. Macron says that this plan will alleviate overcrowding at the museum, boost attention to other works of art that get diminished by the Mona Lisa, and welcome more visitors overall. He has set a target of 12 million visitors per year. But critics say it's not that simple. Yes, the Louvre is in a dire need of repair. There are water leaks, insufficient restrooms, and little temperature control.
We work every day in extremely poor conditions in one of the biggest museums in the world, which is in a deplorable state of disrepair.
More than 2,000 Louvre employees say that renovation is important, but a whole new entrance is a bad and over-expensive fix. Experts also say that sure, the treasure of the Louvre, the Mona Lisa, is in need of crowd control. But moving it will focus on a problem that's not really a problem. Yes, there are too many crowds in front of a painting, but this is seen as an achievement, when other museums in Europe like the UK are struggling to restore pre-pandemic footfall. If the Louvre wants to manage better flow of visitors, it should promote other works of art instead of peeling away certain paintings. Experts also accuse Macron of using this project to adopt the role of the savior. Because the Louvre is not just a museum, it's the former home of French kings. It's a symbol of the Parisian cultural clout. It is a soft power symbol. And Macron, who is weakened domestically, may be using it as an instrument of the state to boost his ratings, like he did with the Notre Dame Cathedral. So whether or not Mona Lisa likes her new crib, Macron is expected to have a renaissance.
And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. The beating retreat ceremony marks the formal end of India's Republic Day celebrations. Taxi drivers block major Spanish roads in a protest against higher insurance costs. And a cold snap turns Niagara Falls into an icy spectacle. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1780, India's first newspaper was published. It was called the Hickey's Bengal Gazette. The newspaper was started by an Irishman, James Augustus Hickey. He wanted to expose the East India Company. The paper reported on civic issues, slamming the British. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We will see you tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to the late night edition with me, Ayushman Singh Jamwal. Big breaking news coming in, ladies and gentlemen. In the wake of the Maha Kumbh stampede, where 30 people have died and nearly 90 injured, starting tomorrow, the Maha Kumbh area will now be a no vehicle zone until the 4th of February. VVIP passes have now been cancelled by the UP administration, and VVIP bath convoys and escort vehicles will not be allowed. Only bikes, ambulances, municipal and fire vehicles will have access to the key areas. Now, key routes have also been made one way, ensuring devotees exit via a different path after bathing. So these are the regulations that have come in place in the wake of the deadly stampede at the Maha Kumbh festival, which took place late last night, where 30 people have now been reported dead, nearly 90 have been injured. The UP administration now cracking the whip to ensure that such a tragedy is not repeated. And now what we are learning is that the area will be a no vehicle zone until the 4th of February. VVIP passes have been cancelled now, and VVIP bath convoys and escort vehicles will not be allowed in the area. Also, key routes have been made one way, ensuring devotees exit via a different path. Remember, we also saw those visuals of the police chief of Prayagraj requesting the devotees to move out of the site after taking the snan. But at the end of the day, many of them were sleeping near the ghats, and that's when the crowd came in and many of them were trampled to death. What we are learning is that 30 people have lost their lives, nearly 90 have been injured. So the UP government taking action so that this tragedy is not repeated. To get more details, I'm joined by my colleague Anupam Mishra on the broadcast. Anupam, और क्या जानकारी है आपके पास?
देखिए, सबसे बड़ी जानकारी यही है कि कल से महाकुंभ मेले में 4 फरवरी तक अब कोई भी वहां नहीं जा सकेंगे। इसको लेकर के बाकायदा आदेश जारी कर दिया गया है और पूरे महाकुंभ क्षेत्र को, मेला क्षेत्र को नो व्हीकल जोन घोषित किया गया है। और 4 फरवरी तक, क्योंकि 3 फरवरी को भी महत्वपूर्ण अमृत स्नान है, ऐसे में प्रशासन और मेला प्राधिकरण किसी भी तरह से कोई चूक नहीं होने देना चाहता है। क्योंकि अब आज जिस तरीके से घटनाक्रम सामने आया, ऐसे में 3 फरवरी तक किसी भी तरह से वाहनों को लेकर के या श्रद्धालु जो दूर दूर से वहां पर पहुंच रहे हैं, उनकी सुरक्षा को प्राथमिकता देना है। उत्तर प्रदेश के मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ ने भी इसको लेकर निर्देश जारी किए हैं। साथ ही साथ वीवीआईपी जो गाड़ियां आती हैं, जो एस्कॉर्ट की गाड़ियां आती हैं, उनके काफिले पर भी साफ तौर पर रोक लगा दी गई है। यानी कि अभी तक जितनी भी गाड़ियों पर वीवीआईपी पास लगे थे, उन सभी गाड़ियों की अब एंट्री कल से रोक रहेगी। सिर्फ बाइक, एम्बुलेंस, नगर निगम